So I was out at Argyle MX. It's a really good track in Northern California. The one issue, though, is you will show up there sometimes and they'll say no wind in the forecast and it'll be 30-mile-an-hour winds. Today was one of those days. I showed up there, I was waiting in line, and the trees were bent in half blowing over. And a lot of people do not like riding in the wind. And what is the safest way to attack the wind when you're riding? Well, safest way is just don't ride it. But us as motocrossers, sometimes we spend 2 to 3 hours driving somewhere and it's just going to be blowing like crazy and we got to ride in it. But what I have learned over the years, and I grew up riding in the wind, I grew up riding a supercross track in the wind, I grew up riding local tracks in the wind, and I've learned how to attack the wind to where it does not really affect me. So what we're going to go over here is how you can manipulate the bike. And the bikes are made a certain way, which you don't really realize to manipulate them. And I'll explain how the bikes are made, how you manipulate it with your feet and not your arms. The front end is disconnected from the motorcycle. That 200 pounds to the rear is behind the front end. Turning the bars is not going to do anything in the wind. It has to be manipulated with your legs. All right, so let's watch some of these videos here. Well, we've already watched them. And while watching them, it doesn't really look like I'm doing much, but when I slow them down and I break it down frame by frame, I'll explain what is going on and how I'm able to jump and correct my bike in the wind. All right, let's go. Okay, first thing I want to go over is YouTube. YouTube is a great tool to analyze videos and teach yourself. And what a lot of people don't know is that up in the right-hand corner, there is a little gear. And that gear, if you click on it, you can actually slow YouTube videos down, like I did here with this one of Jet Lawrence. And Jet Lawrence, look at his right foot. He's doing the thing that I'm going to explain. And if you could take a lot of Jet Lawrence's videos and you slow them down, I was watching one from the recent SMX playoffs, and watch how much he uses his legs in the air. Now, in the videos, it's going to be a little more amplified or a little more exaggerated because it was so windy that day that I was really using my legs. But yes, so if you don't believe me, go back and slow down the pros videos. Watch Eli Tomac, watch Jason Anderson, and watch how much they use their legs in the air. All right, so let's start breaking down these videos. But just wanted to go over what a great tool YouTube is. And there is a slow-mo feature. If you click on that gear, you can slow down videos and analyze them. Okay, before we dive into technique, I want to go over a few things about jumping in the wind. And first is faster jumps do not blow you as much. So the faster you're coming, if it's a third, fourth gear jump and you got a good run up to it, the wind is not going to blow you as much because you are cutting the wind. The slower jumps with more hang time, like the ones right out of a corner, you know, that are in second gear and you're sitting or just barely standing up at the jump, those are the ones that are going to blow you a little more sideways. The faster you can hit a jump staying low, the less you will get blown. So the more you can keep that bike low and cut through the wind, so the more miles per hour you can get off that face or, you know, scrub and stay low if you know how to scrub, the less you're going to get blown. Try to stay away from preloading for more airtime. So try not to go that little brop, brop, brop up the face unless you need that to clear the jump, because what that's going to do, it's going to give you more hang time, more likely to get blown. All right, so this is the picture of me right before liftoff. I've got my head forward. I got my legs pretty straight. I'm putting the weight down into my heels. I'm on the balls of my feet. You can see my heels are dropped. And the reason that's so important is you're putting your weight towards the rear of the center or the rear of the motorcycle, down low where it should be. But also you are squeezing the bike with your legs. When you're on the balls of your feet, it is almost impossible not to squeeze the bike. When you're flat-footed, there's going to be daylight in between your legs and the bike, and you have no control. Now you're just controlling and you're becoming an arm rider. So this is just the takeoff, not really much control, but I just want to point out how important it is to be on the balls of your feet when you're jumping, going through bumps, and riding the track. Balls of your feet, but don't just be on the balls of your feet. Drop your heels too, so you're putting that weight where it needs to be. All right, so in the second picture, I am off into the air, and you can't really see my head, but you can see that as I leave the face, what I'm doing, I'm still on the balls of my feet, but now the tension in my heels is starting to rise up a little bit, and I'm pulling my head forward. So I just want to point out my feet. I had my heels really dropped off the takeoff, but now I'm kind of unweighting myself as I go into the air, but I'm still squeezing tight on the bike, and I'm pulling my weight forward as I take off into the air. All right, so in this picture, as you can see, this isn't an intentional whip, but my bike is starting to kick sideways, and that's because of the wind. So it's starting to blow it just a little bit sideways. Now you can see my weight is really coming forward. I'm starting to motion my head forward and my feet are still on the foot pegs. But in the next clip, you'll see what I start to do with my legs. Okay, so at this point, I'm 5 to 10 feet in the air. My head is really far forward. You can't see it because I'm trying to zoom in on my feet. But what you can see is my left foot is off the foot peg. And if you can see, you can kind of see the toe shadow on the right side. Both of my feet are off the foot pegs. But I am squeezing the bike very tight with my legs. And like I said in the beginning, the bikes are manufactured a certain way and they make them like this so you can manipulate the bike. And that is flaring out the side panels. So you could argue and say, well, they flare out the right one because of the pipe. True. But why did they flare out the left side panel and why don't they make it thin? If you slide your feet back while squeezing like this, you can manipulate the bike and make it jump straight. So the big problem I see is a lot of people will go off of jumps and their bike will kick sideways. But typically those people, when their bike is kicking sideways, they leave their feet remaining on the foot peg. And so that back end is going to take you whatever way it wants to take you off that jump. So you have to move your feet. Go and slow down those videos of the pros and watch them, Eli Tomac, Jet Lawrence. Sometimes they don't move their feet off the foot pegs, but sometimes they do. I would say half the time they are taking their feet off the foot pegs and they are manipulating that rear end with their legs. And you wouldn't catch this unless you slow it down and you watch it, or you're really trying to pay attention to them using their legs to control the bike. Okay, so in this picture, you can see my leg is really far back. And usually I would not do this as extreme with my leg. The reason it's so extreme was I got blown pretty hard off the face. That whip off the face was not intentional. My bike was getting blown. It was a heavy gust of wind that came right at that moment when I jumped. So my leg is grabbing that side panel where it's flared out and it's pushing it back straight. Now, this is a two-part thing. In order to get your legs back there, that head has to come forward. And I would say 99.9% of the time, your head needs to come forward like that when you jump. That is how you control the motorcycle. You jump, the ramp usually wants to take you back on the motorcycle, and you fight that by coming forward. You are reacting to what the bike is trying to do to you. So by coming forward, that's where all your control is. And if you watch any good pro, their heads are always over the handlebars and forward when they jump. So this goes hand in hand. Head forward, legs lighten up on the foot pegs, but they still squeeze the bike. Now look at the grip tape on my bike. That grip tape has 2 rides on it, and I've already shredded the grip tape on my bike. So I need to find a better grip tape company for my bikes, but that's another story. But yes, so legs back, head comes forward. 2-part thing. Okay, so in this picture, you can see now I'm starting to come back. My foot is still squeezing the bike really tight, and it's starting to head back to find the foot peg. And my head is a little more neutral and in line with the bars to get myself landing just a little more neutral. Still head in front of the bars. You always want to have that head over the bars, never behind the bars. You need to anticipate everything the bike is going to do, and you do that by riding forward on the bike. Okay, last pick. I've come back to the foot pegs. I found the foot pegs, and now you can see I am really landing on the balls of my feet. And yes, there are people that are arguing, well, that's why Eli Tomac tore his Achilles. Look, I tore my Achilles too, and I wasn't doing anything when I tore it. I hit a small little bump and I popped my Achilles. If it's going to blow, it's going to blow. But to any sport, you play it on the balls of your feet. There is no sport that you play flat-footed, and that applies to motocross as well. Ride on the balls of your feet. Don't ride flat-footed. Being on the balls of the feet allows you to squeeze that bike. But so in summary, use your legs to manipulate the bike. If you have a problem kicking sideways, whether in the wind or not, you need to use your legs. And it's a 2-part thing. You pull yourself forward, legs come up, but they squeeze as they're coming up. They cannot be loose. And in order to squeeze as they're coming up, it's probably best to take off on the balls of your feet, land on the balls of your feet, and ride the entire track on the balls of your feet. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. If you don't like, don't subscribe. Yep. Thanks again.